going on LinkedIn, Facebook, social media in general. So we're on episode 92 of Bottoms Up Perspective. We change around our show and we've moved down to once a month. But with that said, we go a lot deeper into the topics. So today we got a special guest. So let me bring my co-host up first. Here's Jeremy C. You guys missed
everyone.
him. So
Don't
he's
so.
our host from the East, right? And we want to talk about how to attract a steady stream of clients. So let's bring our guests up tonight. We have Brian Kelly. He runs his own live show as well. And I'll let him tell you a little more about his show as well and introduce himself. So Brian, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, Kevin. Hey, Jeremy. Thanks so much for having me on. I love what you guys have going here. First thing I want to ask you, though, is bottoms up. What are we having? What are we drinking? I saw the bottle. Shows.
It's water today for me.
All right.
Yeah, just plain old water, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been a speaker. I've been on stage and taught untrained entrepreneurs and found that I just love doing that. And it's a long story, but I took a pause. I hit the reset button to build a different platform, to build a different business. And when I did that, I shifted over to live video, as we're doing like right now, and found that I began meeting amazing individuals. And these, what I'm talking about, are my guests that came on. Those are the ones that a lot of people, when they do a podcast or a live video, they're concentrated a lot more on the vanity numbers, the likes, the views, the comments, the subscriptions and all that, when really the real gold lies in the guests you are interviewing. And that should be the focus. And it's like a big shocker to many, but it also can help to relax you when you realize, hey, I only got 5 people watching me live right now. That kind of stinks. But it doesn't, because then you put in repurposing techniques and things like that. And this has been one of the greatest venues, platforms, if you will, live video that I've ever been a part of in my career. And it's pretty exciting. A lot of fun.
So let's roll it back a little bit, Brian. Tell us a little about your career.
Oh my goodness. So Kevin, you and I, we have a kindred spirit. I used to be a software engineer back in the day for about 2 decades, a long time.
Wow.
And I got to the point where I realized I finally woke up. I'm not as smart as I may sound sometimes. It took me a long time to figure it out that I didn't want to do what I was doing. And then I just put everything I had in getting out of that, because I don't want to do something that, that someone else tells me to do, when they want it done and how they want it done. I felt like a robot. With software, you had a little bit of leniency because it is an art. As you know, Kevin, you can solve the same issue in software in a myriad of different ways. As long as the solution is solved and it's solved with efficiency, it works. But so, yeah, I started out as a software engineer. I was a geek, very analytical, I like to say, analytical. And
That's a good
that
one.
was a detriment. So when you become an entrepreneur, you don't want to be too overbearing on the analytical side of things. You become, you've heard of paralysis by analysis. And I just started learning what it took to become an entrepreneur, because I loved everything about it. I loved the people, first and foremost. I went to a lot of seminars. Oh my goodness, a bunch, before I then began speaking on stage. And what I noticed was I could walk into a sea of people that are there already, and they're in the hallway, and I just immediately felt that I was at home. I don't know if you've ever had that happen, compared to the corporate life where everyone's like, they're just going in, punching the clock, their heads down, they're not happy. And it's a complete different feel. And I said, honey, I'm home. I'm staying here. This is what we're going to do from now on. And so, I started my own live show. It's been running for a little over 3 years. Before that, I had one almost a decade ago, before Periscope, before Facebook.
Wow.
I did that with a business partner. We did 2 years, 100 shows on that one. So almost every week.
So can I ask where that was on?
It's where it was.
Mm-hmm. Where it was.
Like the platforms?
Yep, the platform you're streaming.
Yeah, there were 2 in existence back then that did live streaming. It was Ustream and Livestream.
Okay, I remember Ustream.
Both still exist today. Back in that day, they were free until about, I don't know, a little over a year into our doing the show. One of them decided to instantly, without any notification, inject an ad into our live stream.
Oh my.
And this client had paid to appear. So we were looking at each other, my partner, like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. So yeah, you have there's a lot of good stories in the live streaming. You can't, that's the thing about live though, that is so much better in my humble opinion than a pre-recorded, because there's a different dynamic. You can't make this up. We don't have the ability to go back and edit what we just said. It is live, baby. And so it's more authentic, it's more real. And now you get to see more of the pure essence of the individual that's on that live. And it just is amazing.
You can't hide from life. Yeah.
That is so true. So let's go into our topic a little bit today, right? How do you attract steady stream of customers or clients, right? And the old way of thinking is, hey, you nurture people, face-to-face meetings, you build relationships, right? But then all of a sudden you got all these gurus all over the internet telling you how you should do it, what type of solutions you should use. But I think Brian can attest to this. It hasn't really changed, right? So we have all these new tools, gadgets, social media, TikTok. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about nurturing a community or people or building relationships, it really hasn't changed. So let's talk about how do you stand, out amongst your competition.
I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all about relationships, and there are many different forms of marketing that have been thought of, that have been built, that have been followed for decades. And what used to work 10 years ago doesn't necessarily work today, except for that one common denominator. And you hit the nail on the head, and that is personal, building one-on-one relationships. And I used to hate that because I was an internet marketer. I want to blast one email out to thousands of people and sit back and rake it in. And after literally years of thinking I could crack that code, I couldn't. All the gurus were saying how they did it. They were finding ways to do it. I'd buy another course, follow that. That didn't work. Buy another course, follow that. That didn't work. What ultimately came down to this really met with my value system more than I ever recognized was building a relationship and doing it one person at a time. Doing a live show is a perfect way. I do a 1 hour show. I don't even know how long this show is. We're going as long as you guys want to go. But yeah, I mean, I'm here. But the thing is, with a live show, there's just so much more that can be made from it. But the thing is, like you two, us three, we were talking a little bit before the show started. And then on my show, I do a debrief when it's over. So I'm getting to know that individual before they come on the show. And then I have a better knowledge of how to speak to them during the show. And then after the show, they're very grateful for the experience, because I spread this thing all over the place. I call it carpet bomb marketing. And I do that for no fee, no charge. And I just love lifting other people up that deserve it. And everyone on my show deserves it. So you two guys need to come on my show. You deserve it. And it's just because of developing these relationships with one person at a time, I've found more joy and more result than I ever could have with mass marketing constantly. There are some that can do it, and they're very good at it. Frank Kern, the big internet marketers that understand it very well. And it can be done. Just for me, it meant more to establish that relationship, get to know that person. Then I felt better when it came to, I don't sell anything ever. I used to, and it never felt that great. And I couldn't figure it out. Now I just get on the show. I do a masterclass for free once every 3 weeks. That's for an hour. Then my call to action is get on a call with me for an hour. I don't charge a thing, and I don't sell anything on that call. Talk about anything you want. If there's a fit, it will show itself. That's the beautiful thing. I got so many tips I could go. How long is this show? I don't want to go too long.
No, go ahead.
No, just
No,
let it rip. Go.
We go for about an hour and a half. Yep.
Okay, that's my length. My shows too. So one of the greatest tips I got was from my mentor. His name's Mel Cutler. He used to do seminars multiple times every year. He was born with a disease called cystic fibrosis, a hereditary disease, and it finally ultimately took its toll. He's still with us. He's doing fantastic, but it took a lot of his, it takes a lot of physicality to speak from stage. People don't recognize that. But one of the greatest things that I got from him, there were many. One of the greatest things was picture yourself at a networking event back in the day when we actually congregated in large groups of people, and then there would be a break, right? You're there for maybe 90 minutes, because the brain can only withstand or take in that which the butt can withstand, because you got to get up and get out for a little bit. And so you go out in the break room, and what are people doing there? They're networking. They're getting to know each other, and they don't have much time, so they're slinging around their business cards like ninja stars. It is. My mentor said the greatest thing, because guess where all those cards go at the end of the day, or even before the next break? The nearest trash can, every single time. Why is that? Because you have no time to establish whether or not you provide any kind of value, number one, that they want, or number two, that they need. And it's not about selling yourself. It's about getting to know that person. You know what? On my show, I bring on guest experts, and business has occurred as a result of it. But guess what? I'm not talking one way. It's been two way. I've become clients of many of my guest speakers on my show. I don't look at it as a way to sell. It does do that, and inherently that's what happens, but it happens naturally, the way it should happen. When there is a fit, when you have a pain, or when you solve a pain point that someone needs that solution for, and you've done it with authenticity. I don't do it for the sale. When the sales come, I'm grateful. I take the sale, heck yeah, and then I over deliver as hard and as fast as I can with that person. But the beautiful thing is, it takes all of the stress away from trying to sell somebody. No more chasing. It's a push or a pull. It's neither. It's a meet. It's a meet in the middle. Let's just have a meet. Let's see what happens. If I can help you, if I can't help you, I have so many contacts and resources. I'll send them to you. And I'm not going to charge them money for my breath for talking. I don't do that. That's just not the way I roll. And that way I can go at it just so calm, so authentic, so friendly. That's what makes me up. That's my being. And I love people, and I love working with and helping people, regardless of if I make money or not. Of course, yes, we have to make money. I'm not trying to say that don't do this or don't go out and do it with expectation of making zero money. It will happen. And it does take time, but it's, yeah. Okay.
And I think we can all attest to that, right? It just happens naturally, and sales has changed so much, right? Think about cars. Right now I'm looking at potentially trading in my car because, the dealerships are looking for used cars, and I bought mine just a couple years ago, and I can get pretty good value for it. But it's funny, you walk into a car lot, they're like, they're zooming in. Nowadays, you go in, I would say they're like glorified, order takers, and you kind of select the car salesman you connect with, right? Because there's lack of vehicles. I don't know how it is in Asia, but in the U.S., you can go to a car lot and there's no cars, right? So honestly, the sales guys aren't like killing it trying to sell you a car. They're just like, okay, you want to put a down payment? Here's the new car coming in, maybe in 4 months, maybe in 6 months, but that type of thing. But people have to think about the internet has changed the way sales is done. So when you're talking about standing out in your competition, right? It's not a better video. It's not more social media posts. I'm in the marketing world. People hire my agency to, stand out, right? But the truth is, a lot of people don't want to put in the work. They think they go pay some agency, wave a magic wand, and we're going to attract customers, right? Yes, if you're Louis Vuitton or you're Nike, you're a bigger brand. If you're small or a mid-size business or even a solopreneur, even if you hire the very best appointment setter, you pay for your LinkedIn bot, I hate to break the news to you. You've got to be there. You've got to put in the work. They set the appointment. You still have to show up. Okay? No matter what you do in your career. I always tell the younger guys this too when they come and work for my company. I don't care if you're the guy behind the computer building websites. You're in the people business. Okay? If you want to make money doing anything in life, You can't go, oh, I don't like people, Kevin. I'm behind the scene. I go, that's not how the world works. Then you aren't going to make money. You aren't going to make a living. So remember, we're in the people business. And in order to stand out compared to your competition, you've got to love people. You've got to want to connect. You can't pay someone to just connect for you. Right?
Totally.
So I think we got to keep that in mind. And everything Brian's saying is true. You know, you can be the top sales guys back in the old days. They have Rolodex. It's because they have relationships, right? And these relationships give them referrals and introduce you to bankers and different things. And that's how people built businesses. You know, it's the same thing on the internet. There's no rocket science, you know? Like, I'm the same way. I'm like Brian. I have an agency and people come to me and like, I'm one of those guys. I can't just charge them, you know, $10,000 for consulting or whatever for marketing, because to me it's like, it's not rocket science, you know? Like, honestly, I can have conversation with you and give you 10 tips and you can kill it. But then these corporations, companies, they make it way more complicated. They think there's this magic strategy. You know, they'll start naming out strategies they hear from these influencers. And I go, dude, that's not how it works, man. Your sales team have to build relationships, and you're just shifting it online.
I want to talk a little bit about, you know, standing up amongst competition. It's funny you talk about car dealerships, right? And you're wondering how it's like in Asia, specifically for Singapore, right? We pay a lot of money for a piece of paper. We call it a certificate of entitlement that allows you to own the car for 10 years only. After that, everything starts all over again. Yeah. So the point about standing out competition, it's kind of like the same, be it cars or anything else. Yeah, everything is kind of like commoditized now, right? A car gets you from point A to point B, whether it's a Toyota, a Mercedes, or a Lamborghini, right? So the product itself, yes, there are some form of differentiation, but the purpose and function it shows is kind of like the same. Same with companies, right? I work with a corporation. Your solutions aren't that different. So with social media,
they don't like to hear that.
That's what marketing is for. Try to make it different.
When very different, okay?
Yeah,
it's always the best product.
No, that's why you need marketing, right? To make things look different. Where at the end of the day, they kind of serve the same purpose. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that now with social media, you realize that the lines blurred even more because everyone has sort of near perfect knowledge with the internet, and you know what everything does. You can really find out what's the slight difference between what company A has to offer versus company B, right? But now with things like social media and personal branding and all that, you tend to really go with the people you like, you have seen, you have heard on live shows, perhaps, right? Or what they post. You tend to have that affinity. So the relationship is built with this person because of social media, even before you contact them or that company, what they sell, right? I always say, companies are made of people, right? People like to do business with people we like. And that's what it is. The company is the brand name, has that product. Yes, they can spend a lot on building the brand equity, you know, like you mentioned, Nike and Louis Vuitton, all these players. That's built and done. They've invested tons of money, right? But the face behind it is really, you know, people like the founder or the salesperson, the frontline people who get in touch with you, and linking this back to the car dealership, because it's 10 years and you have to get a new car, right?
So you guys don't have the option of keeping the car.
You can, but you have to pay for that piece of paper again for the next 10 years.
Oh, yeah? Really? Like
and yeah.
Okay, the full
and you
price.
need to pay, and you need to pay, I think, a certain amount to keep the car. I don't know really how it goes because I don't own the car, so hence apologies for my lack of knowledge there. So the point is this: if somebody bought a Mercedes from you, that person's going to come back 10 years later. And this probably is rich enough to buy another Mercedes from you, right? So it becomes very critical and crucial that the person knows you and you know that person and you deliver that service. And yeah, it still boils down to people, right? So to answer that question, how do you stand out amongst your competition, really is to be yourself. No, don't talk about, your company's product, how different it is. Yeah, that's the marketing people's role. Yeah, but really, if you're a solopreneur, I think really, like how Brian mentioned it, right? Be yourself, be your authentic self, deliver the value. Don't look at people as digit, or don't look at people as the source of income, because that makes it very transactional. And I
That's
don't think
good.
that's what we're trying to do. Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree. And other ways to stand out. So I see how people are using social media. It's like a lot of them are going straight for the sell, and
Oh.
and uh, I mean, I have a VA that's helping me out, and when she first started, she was doing that. I was like, no, 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 don't do that. Let's build the relationship first, then I'll jump in when it's time to take to the next step, if that time ever does come up. For me, that's
Mm.
just keeping the presence on social media on different platforms. More importantly, though, is taking shows that I've done with my guest experts that have come on. We're approaching, I forget how many, 200 or so coming up, and disseminating that using automation. But it's okay. I'm just putting a video up and it's live, and when it first goes live, and then I'll send it out to more after the live is over and have it all done automatically. The whole point of it is, and there's a gentleman by the name of Rick Frischman. I learned this concept from, I don't think he invented it, but he did something called Author 101 University, and he may still be doing it. I don't know. He did it twice a year, once in Nevada, once in California. And his was all about writing books. And he's a publisher. And one of the things he said while on a stage, which is a platform, he said one of the most important things any entrepreneur can do that most miss the point on is putting the time in to build your platform. And what he meant by that was, specifically in his case, by writing a book and becoming more of an authority figure and having your name out there without you being the one shouting your name. Now people can see it by just looking. And so I take that concept to another level. And a lot of people do this as well, where I do massive exposure through all the channels I can possibly find. I mean, there are so many out there. My show, when it's done, 10-minute edit of the video, and now we download the MP3, and it goes out to 25 podcast platforms. And it goes out to all of the major social media platforms, YouTube, even Twitch. They allow you now. Gosh, we're even on Pandora for audio, which is a music.
Oh,
They
that's
opened
awesome.
podcasting not too long ago. And just I spread it as far and as wide. I just added 3 more platforms just last week. I'm always looking for more. There's new social media platforms coming up due to all the hijinks that are going on with Facebook and Twitter. We won't go into the political side of that stuff, but there's new ones being stood up that are now mature enough and taking on live streamers, so you can just continue to grow your base. So what happens? You have that discussion with somebody. You're not selling them a thing. You find they find that I have a pain point that would solve their issue. And if they want to do more research, they just go do a quick search. There's no way they could not find me because of the propagation, the massive exposure. That is the key, in my humble opinion, for using social media, is for the widespread exposure. And that exposure inherently is providing value because of the people I interview. It's all about business in my particular case. So it gives value, and it also just provides that presence, that platform. And yes, I think writing a book is also vitally important. I have one 90% done that's been that way for about 2 years. But all of those things told, I mean, I think a lot of people just go in and, LinkedIn is a little bit different. And I know a lot of people making very good money using LinkedIn with specific strategies in that, because those are business people inherently on LinkedIn. So it's a lot, you're not like treading the water wondering, oh, should I say it? Should I say it on Facebook? With LinkedIn, you can get there a little quicker, a few more steps, but I still don't even do it much there. I invite people to my free masterclass. And it's funny, even when we get to that stage, they think, oh, you just did all this just to spam me, to get me into your course. And like, you can think whatever you want. It's free. Not a thing. They don't know me yet. That's the problem. That's the problem. And so, yeah. And it will happen, just so everybody knows. That will happen no matter what your intent is. Just get over it. Some will just say, you're a scammer. You're just going to spam me. And you just walk away. You just don't even engage. I don't say a thing. I just move on. It's okay. They can have their opinion. If they don't know you, then they obviously don't know your intent. But that's it.
No, and you brought some good points, right? And it goes right into, our next question, right? Creating massive exposure. and you said a few things, right? You utilize social media in order to blast out, and get your message out to a wider audience, right? And a lot of times people make you feel guilty because you're utilizing automation or I think you mentioned you use a virtual assistant, right? I also have an assistant that does a lot of my LinkedIn messages. I don't have time for it. I run a company. I have employees. I have to. Right now, I'm working on expanding our office and doing different things. Right. So the truth is in the world of business, it's about being efficient. But I still jump into the relationships that, hey, if this is a great opportunity, this is a cool person to meet,
Yeah.
it's still
You
me.
still have to do it.
I'm still doing it, and I understand it takes this, in order to meet Brian. Now, you shouldn't feel guilty because not everyone's for you. Think about it. Do you meet every person in the street or wherever you go, church or wherever you hang out, and everyone's just going to be your friends? The truth is, you still pick and choose, right? So when people come up there, you met him, but you wouldn't meet me. I go, come on, that's part of relationships,
And the pick and choose is more evident now with COVID, right? Because there's a limited number of people you can meet every time, social distance. So you really need to pick and choose even more now.
Yeah.
Here's the
And
way I look at it.
you only have 8-hour days.
Yeah.
Yep.
The way I look at it is no matter what you do, guarantee someone else does it. And there's going to be competition if you want to think of it that way. But the difference, so yeah, you may have higher quality service or better, more benefits and bells and whistles than the other person. But if they're anywhere near each other and that person's looking at two of you side by side, guess who they're going to pick? They're going to pick the one they resonate with more from a personal standpoint on most occasions. And so what differentiates you from other businesses is simply you. And are you being authentic? And even if you're being authentic, I want to be very clear about this. So, I've got Kevin and Jeremy here, and one of you could probably despise me, and I'm just being, and that will happen. So not everybody is going to warm up to you just because you're being authentic. I don't want to put that out there either, that you think, oh, this is the magic pill. I just be authentic. Wait a minute. How come that person doesn't like me? Well, that's just human nature. Not everybody's a fit. We all have, I have a wife. I know Jeremy does. He let it out. I don't know, Kevin, if you have a significant other. And so you two met and you were attracted to each other. I'll guarantee there's another man out there that would not be attracted to your wife. Same with mine, and vice versa. Not everybody is. And that's just the way it is. That's the beauty. Thank God it's that way, that we have this variety. And so just be authentic, but don't expect that, okay, the sky's going to open and flood cash my way. That's again, it's about intent. Is your intent just to get cash? And if that's the case, then God bless you. Then, it's just going to take longer. Can you still make it? Yeah, there are people that have done it. We know, the slimy sleazeball salespeople that take it to the other extreme of the spectrum that can make it happen, but that just, go with your gut, go with your heart, go with what works for you, what makes you feel right about the process. And man, I tell you, it took me 2 decades to figure this stuff out. I mean, it's been pretty recent where I go, wow, light just went on. And this is great. This is fun. In the process of learning about other people and not selling them, I get to help them. I love helping people. I don't need to be paid for every minute I help somebody. I could tell them, hey, on the next hour first hour's on me, next one's on you, whatever. But I'm not a sleaze. I shouldn't say sleaze because there's nothing wrong with doing that. It doesn't match my value system at this moment. So off my soapbox.
No, and what's really neat too, like you're putting yourself out there, right? So when you're doing a live show or when you're active on social media, right? You're putting content out there. You're putting yourself out there. What I learned throughout my entrepreneur journey, and I've been doing it for, a long time, right? 20 plus years. What has helped is what I learned as I've been doing it more, you start attracting the right people.
Yes.
Because the people, when you're putting yourself out there, the people that like you, they're going to be okay to jump on your show. Okay? They're going to be the one that's going to be like, hey, even though Kevin's not selling to me, I want to connect with this guy. I want to talk to him. Oh, his content's interesting. I resonate. He has kids. I have kids. He's a family guy. Right?
Yeah.
And what has happened in my business, I'm seeing the clients that stay with me for the 6, 7, 8 years are the ones I connected with something in common, or they have something in common with even my brand, right? And I tell all my staff, put yourself out there. And I know a lot of owners, when they come see me, right, if they're a small to mid-sized business, well, I don't want the sales guys to build their personal LinkedIn. And I go, why not? Oh, well, they'll take that audience with them, you know? Oh, I just want them to share the company stuff, you know? And I go, dude, that's so, 10, 15 years ago. If you are confident with what you bring to the table as a company, you should be happy for your staff to build their personal brand and put themselves out there, because they're the ones that are going to attract, and they're your best cheerleaders, you know? And so when it comes to building exposure, right, it's not just the founder story or the owner, it's your staff too. You know, you want them to be happy to build their personal brand, right?
Totally agree. And yeah, you said so many great things, because it's all about building and it all starts with the leader. It all starts with the leader. You'll notice that when people come from a current company and they act a certain way, they are basically mimicking the leader in many cases. And so whatever you're doing as a leader, be very specific at it. Build a very strong culture that matches your values. And if they don't match your values, you probably shouldn't have hired them to begin with, is where that goes. And
that's right.
I've got this great tip. Oh my gosh. I was thinking, should I just love giving too much out. So this is great. So for one, be sure to vet your individual. I put mine through a lot of effort up front to determine if I want them. And I put together an automated system with videos. They had to answer questions in between. And I just send them one link and it takes care of the rest. And if they go to the last piece is great. You've answered all the questions. Appreciate it. Now there's one more step. For you to actually become part of my team, I need you to submit a video of why you think I should hire you. And I got that idea from another guest that was on my show. And I thought, that's gold. And then I said, if you don't know how to shoot the video or where to put it up for me to get access to it, I leave that as a challenge to you.
Oh, I love that.
Let's see if they've got problem solving skills as well. And then, so not everybody did it. And that was okay, because it was an automated filter. And those that did, there is not one that I said no to. Every single one I said is, anyone that did that was like, I didn't even have to watch the testimony. I did, but that's one tip. The second one was, once they're in your company, how do you get the culture? How do they get that culture ingrained into them, to the way, there's so many corporations that will do special training. You all got to gather like a herd of cattle, and you get in there and this is what we stand for. This is our mission. This is our purpose. And you're like, oh, shoot me another meeting. But one of the things I do with this show, my show that I do, is I upload it to a transcription service that converts both video and the written word. When you play it back, it's in tandem. It's in real time. That's pretty awesome. That's the good news. The bad news is it's very much like Siri. It makes mistakes. And so it's automated translation. So when I have a new person come on, I have them do a minimum of 4 shows where they correct all of the mistakes. And when they do that, they can play the video, listen to it, and while they're reading the words, see that the issue, correct it, rewind it a little bit. So they're playing things over and over and over again. What are they listening to? Half of the show is my voice, right? And now they are inherently, without me training a thing. This was pure accident. It was just, oh my God, this is gold. Is they literally, some of them began talking like me in our meetings. Like, what is going on here? And they understood my values, my culture. Now, if you want anyone to act on your behalf, to message people on social media, they are going to be much farther along the path in doing that correctly. Using your language, your values is more important than your language, and your culture has been established without any extra.
Cool.
by putting them through a task that you need done for your company. So I always say I have my systems, developing my systems by doing that. So yeah, that's a free tip. I don't charge for that either. Sorry, I could.
Really cool tips. Really cool tips. And Brian, I like when you mentioned, comparing like two people, right? You said that you only compare two people, who you're gonna choose, right? So because I'm still a corporate guy, I've not woken up yet, still a robot. Yeah. So you see, in big corporations, they always have procurement department, right? And the basis that procurement department decides which vendor is usually price, because that's what they're measured to do. They are measured by savings, yeah. But usually for me, in the good old days, right, I have exhibitions going on different parts of the world, and I have my team member coming to me with like 3 quotations, yeah, price X, Y, and Z. And they always ask me which one to choose because I need to make that decision, right? So the simplest way is to go with the cheapest one. But I always throw this question to them. Which of the vendor do you feel most comfortable working with? Which one do you think is going to be able to solve your problem when you're on site and you need something to be done, fixed immediately, and you have the confidence that they will turn around for you? That's the one to pick, not the price. It's not my money. True, it's the corporations, but to me, that's more important. It's really, it boils down to the point, right? The person, when you interact with them, when they come back to you on the quotation, is like the fastest or the most immediate. That's an indication of how they will act on site, right? Hence, you need to know which are the ones you're comfortable working with, which person probably not resonate, but at least you know that they will work for you. They will move mountains for you if you need be. And it's all those little things that you make a decision. Yes, price is important, but really when you have the confidence in that person and you see that value, you're not going to negotiate on price. Same as what you do, right? Price only becomes a problem when I don't see the value, right? Yep. If I see the value, you, Brian, giving me advice the first hour free, wow, so much value, right? Like what you're dishing out all the advice for free on this show. If I see the value, when I find that I resonate with you, I need your help, you give me a price, I'm probably not going to negotiate because I've already got the value in the first place. I know what you can do for me. I want to find out how much more you can do for me. I'll gladly pay.
And that's goal, right? And that's a lot of people forget, right? They focus on, okay, personal branding, right? How do I need to look? Or what type of messaging do I would need to put out there? But a lot of personal branding is really putting yourself out there as your authentic self, right? Because that is your personal brand, is who you are, right? And then allowing people to experience you, But then we make it way more complicated, and now we have these formulas to help this person have a personal brand. A lot of times people come and go, help me with my personal brand. And I go, do you know who you are? It's almost like counseling. You sit with them for about 30 minutes. You start discovering, you're a father, you're a husband. Okay. Oh, you're religious. You go to church. Great. Okay. You like eating this kind of food. There you go. This is your personality. This is your personal brand. Now go share it. But we get so stuck on these formulas because we listen to a podcast or we see some guru or influencer tell you this formula to be you. And it really bothers me because I never got that. It's okay for someone to kind of help you shape, to pull it out of you if you don't know. But come on, man. It's not worth $20,000, $30,000 to pay someone to find out who you are. Because I'm 99.9% sure you know who you are better than they do.
Oh, but sometimes people don't know who they are. They don't, true too. And they find out along the process.
That's
true.
You
figure out that, no, I'm not like that. Yeah, I posted this, but yeah, I'm probably not like that. Yeah, I need to change it a little bit. So it's a work in progress all the time.
Yep.
All the time.
And I think sometimes we overthink who we are. There's who we are and who we want to be, right? Which is two different things, right?
Yeah, it's dangerous to try to define who you are because you're basically labeling yourself, and it doesn't give you the freedom to change or be flexible. What I found over the years, I'm 57 now, and what I found is I've changed many times over that span. I never, I shouldn't say I never self-labeled. I did. You know, I'm a software engineer. You know, I was proud of that. I'm a software engineer. You know, I would see people with vanity plates. You know, these are license plates where you pay extra to have something written on them within the 7-character limit here in the States. And some would put the name of the company they work for. And I would literally be saddened just because that's what defines that person. That's what, and I've met many, having been in corporate myself as well, that they would define everything they do, every conversation, even outside of work when we're gathering. That's why I never liked going to a coworker's place after work or weekends, because all you do is hear the same crap more and more. It's like, no, thank you. I'm done. I want to get away from it. This is why I have a weekend. And it just would sadden me that they're identifying with who they work for rather than who they could be serving and who they could be helping outside of that. And look, I'm not here to shame anybody for being an employee. Please don't get that wrong. I used to be one. We need employees. We need, the world does.
Yep,
when I say
we do.
Entrepreneurs, you know, we're a tiny, tiny percent of the world because, you know, entrepreneurs are more willing to take much bigger risks than most people would ever even consider a dream.
Yep.
And that's okay. You know, God created us all differently, and thank God for that. I'm so glad variety. And so it's not for everybody, but I just wanted to, I don't know, put it out there that, you know, be careful about labeling yourself or being accepting of someone else's label of you. Oh, I remember doing that. If someone told me something I like that, I'm going with that. All right. I'm going to take that. And then later I'd say, that's what I am. And it's like, wait a minute, that ain't right. But it would change over time. So just be careful of that.
And it's okay to change, right? Because I remember who I was in my teens, and then when you hit your 20s, then you hit your 30s, and in your 40s, you know, you see yourself differently, you know? And then I'm sure when I get to my 50s, you know, it's going to look different again, right? But if you think of even brands, right? Nike looked a lot different 10 years ago than now. So things evolve, you know, we have to adapt to change, right? Yeah, you can complain about gas prices all day if you're in the US, or you can adapt to the gas prices, right? And learn how to live with these higher gas prices, right? Maybe you can pull in more revenue, look for another income stream. There's ways to adapt and be that person that's just complaining about change, because change is going to happen. No matter what decade you live, there's going to be change, right? And going back, so this is a true story. So I owned a restaurant and bar at one time, and I had a bartender who came in one day and decided to tattoo his logo, my logo on his arm.
Ooh.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's commitment, yeah?
Yeah, that's commitment. And then I fired him, like, you know, a week later because he was the one stealing money from me.
Oh.
So it goes back to, you know, dude.
Well, good thing he got the money from you. He needed that to pay for getting that tattoo removed now. Man. But here's the thing.
So when you said, you know, people drive around with their license plate, so it triggered that story. So I had a guy, he was showing me my logo. I was like, you really tattoo that on your arm? I was like,
it's only skin deep, yeah.
I was like, I feel bad for you.
It's fun. It's interesting because times like these, you know, when we're going through these biggest trials, these are when most millionaires are made. Yep. You just made a very good point, Kevin, because, you know, like when the pandemic was in its full swing here in the United States, toilet paper was, you couldn't find it anywhere. And it was
everywhere's the same in Asia. Everyone's grabbing it out. I don't know why.
To be able to clean oneself after dirtying oneself, let's just put it out there. And I remember thinking, and I got the thought a little too late, but I'm like, there is a solution to this. There's a solution to this. And there were these portable bidets that were being sold on Amazon. You literally stick it, you know, attach it to your toilet seat. If you know what that is, it's something that squirts water up and cleans you without spraying all over the bathroom, I hope. But you would just tie it to your water faucet, or the water that comes out into your toilet, and put it in as a tea, and you could just fire that off. I'm like, oh, I missed that boat. But that would have been one of those moments where that would be temporary. You'd make money for a while. For those that are survivalists, they'll probably say, I'll never buy toilet paper again. I'm just going to go with my bidet. And it's just, but it's things like that. It's thinking out of the box. It's like not just concentrating, like you said, Kevin, on the woe is me. Look at these gas prices. Good gosh, now I can't drive anywhere. It's like, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe walk, run, or bike, figure out different ways, or just don't go anywhere and figure out how to get a business going from home. I mean, there's lots of different solutions to every issue, but these are the times when the millionaires are made because they think different. It's all up here. This is what makes the difference, is what's between your two ears and that big, beautiful brain of yours. And I'm talking to everybody.
Yep. So let's go on to a more practical question, right? So you talked about it earlier about automating, right? So let's talk about, how do you automate new client generation? What does that look like? What are some tips you can throw at our audience in regards to?
So
yep.
One thing I would say is be careful and be very focused on how you use automation. And by careful, I mean, there are places to use it and there are places you shouldn't. I'm not a big fan of bots because AI is only, AI has been thrown around so much. It's half of it not AI, half of it's just a program that I could have written back 20 years ago. I mean, let's stop with the AI.
Half of it is a macro, yeah.
I'm telling you, exactly. A little script. Yeah. And, but be careful, because when I use automation, it's for communication with somebody that wants to come on my show or has been on my show. And it's with a purpose. The purpose is to prepare them for the show. Kevin, I think you have some automation running, unless you were doing that manually. I kind of doubt it, but I was getting reminders of the show. I would send out reminders. I gave them a guest checklist. They would click a button. This is all automated. And they would watch a video of me telling them, because you give them all the forms, visual, and then also auditory, they're listening, and the written word. People like to learn in different modes. And so
that's good.
I put them all there. Checklist is beneath with links if they need a camera, if they need a microphone, and get it real quick on these things. And I have them click a button to confirm whether or not they completed the checklist. And then my system, I can go look if I want to and say, oh, okay, they completed it. They're going to be ready. And so the automation from my standpoint is more for communication with the upcoming client and for automated posts to social media that don't go off on any opinion or anything. It's just, here's the latest show with special guest expert, blah, 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 on the Mind Body Business Show, and the link or the actual video, URL right there. So very simple, but very effective. And I'm not, people aren't getting put off by, oh my God, that was an automated post. No one ever says a thing about those. And those that on the guest side that are about to appear on my show, I can't tell you how many times they come back and say, my God, you are so organized and so professional. And I almost fall out of my chair laughing. If you could see the top of my desk, organized. The thing is the perception, and it's not inauthentic. I mean, I do have a clean desk on occasion, and I am very, very picky about quality. And so, yes, I am organized in that way. So I'm not saying anything's not true. But the cool thing is their perception is I deal them with a lot of quality and professionalism. And so if there ever is an opportunity for us to do business down the road, they remember that. Like we've been talking about this whole show, that is what separates you. Because right now, that's what separates any two businesses. Again, if you're doing it, someone else is. What really separates you is you. How you go about it, how much effort you put into it. Is it of high quality? Is it professional? Are they going to enjoy the experience, no matter what it is, service that you provide? Do you go above and beyond and give them more than they ever dreamed of? I mean, I do all this, put all this thing together, massive system, and I don't charge a dime for people to come on. Most of the time, I do charge if they want to appear sooner than the rest, and I open an extra day for that, but I like to do one a week. On a rare occasion, I'll do two. Last night, Tuesday, what day is today? This is Wednesday. Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah. Last
Thursday
night.
for Jeremy.
Thursday for me, yeah.
Last night I had one such guest, and they wanted to, I call it skip the line. They paid a little fee for me to add another show to my mix, because it's another show. You guys know how much this takes to get it prepared. For me now, it's much less. I have automation, and I do have a VA, human being. They are still very important. So please do not just completely get away from humans when it comes to handling your business. You still need them. Thank goodness, because come on, that's what we're here for, is to work together, lift each other up, and just have a great time doing it. But yeah, automation is very, very important, but just be careful.
Can I sidetrack a little bit? I've observed I made an observation based on what you shared, Brian, and I think that's important because it kind of works into this automation thing, or rather, not automating it. I realized based on what you shared about how you want the candidates interview to do the video, how you want people who you've recruited to do all the captioning, changing, and all that, and even with a so-called automated form, you still insist that the client clicks a button and ticks, and you get that feedback. What I'm trying to say is that I think you have a cultural aspect, even not just to you, you in a company, and the way you think about things and the way you do things. It's really not about interaction, but I think you cherish more on the human element more of a learn by doing kind of a element, right? And it goes to show, because that's consistent with who you are. You learn more about people by doing it, by doing live shows. You really take the effort, and the human element is so important as we go more into this digital age. I think what you're doing is right, and really that's how you stand out, because everything you do, it cannot be replicated. Even if it's an automation thing, you have some human element in it, and it serves to complement but not take over your entire process. And that's the observation I want to make, because I think it's really cool.
Well stated. Compliment. That's it. And I always frame it, and I mean this. I frame all of the conversation to these guests that this is about getting them the most quality and greatest experience, not just for them to feel good about it, also for the exposure that's going to result. I want them to shine. I want them to look phenomenal. I want them to look prepared. I want them to not be nervous, because people of the older generation, and that includes me, tend not to be as natural on camera. People that 10, 15, 20 years younger, they were born with a camera in their face as they're popping out of the womb, for crying out loud. They're more natural, right? They're smiling as they're coming out. They're not crying anymore. But I'm kidding. But yeah, so it's I just knocked myself off my own track of thought. I did open a loop earlier, though. I don't know if any of you recognize this. I wouldn't have done that on purpose, haven't I? Yeah, that's right. I opened a loop, and that was about the business cards. I never finished that story. Oh, we got a little bit of time.
No, we're good.
Okay. Yeah, we're good. Don't worry. Take as long as you need.
Now, I don't know how often business cards are used these days. I haven't been to a seminar in some time, but I still see people buying them, getting them designed online. I've heard them talk to them like, oh, please. So I used to do that. I used to give out business cards, and I would stress myself out over how many I'm giving out every break and not talk to anybody, and did it completely inauthentically and horribly. And I went down that path. My mentor said this. He basically says, I don't even carry a business card anymore. He says, what happens is when I'm talking to somebody, if I didn't provide enough value in our conversation, or I didn't solve a pain point of theirs, and they did not ask me for my business card, I would never give it to them. And that just takes all the pressure off, because look, again, you're not going to sell everybody. I mean, a dog lover isn't going to want cat treats, right?
Yep.
So you don't want to try to shove something down their proverbial throat that they don't want or need. You just have a discussion. It's like, oh, you know what? I know a great cat service provider over here. Let me introduce you to him. I just talked to him a second ago. Would you mind if I made that introduction? Now they love you. They have more than one pain point, by the way. And so help people. Just help them. But this could take all the pressure and stress off of you from this point forward. I'm not saying don't carry business cards if you like to do that. I would just recommend don't hand one out unless they ask you for your contact information. And that will just take all the pressure off. And it'll make you, it'll flip a switch in your brain to say, I need to be talking more with this person, not at them. And really, I need to be listening more than I'm talking.
That's gold. Really good team.
And I think all of you brought some very, the human element, right? And I personally think during the pandemic, it really proved to the world that it's not going away anytime soon. I mean, in the U.S., I can speak for the West, right? When the pandemic kind of settled, everyone's back out and about. I have clients that refuse to do Zoom and rather come to the office because of that human element. They're like, no, let's, I know you book a Zoom meeting. Hey, I'll drive, Kevin. I'll drive 2 hours to just meet with you. And I was like, I really don't want to meet with you, but okay. He's like, let's have a cup of coffee. I want to drive 2 hours. I want to see you. And I was like, awesome, But like last month, I broke my record for conference room meetings. I had so many conference room meetings because it seems like everyone wanted that human element. And people go, oh, they're worried about, the metaphors and all this different things. But there's something about the human element, right? And this goes for, people go, oh, it's not the same because you're older, Kevin. It's not the same for, Gen Zs and stuff.
Nope.
Guess what? My son was so excited to just play, like, during the pandemic, I cannot take him off the iPad. So I have a 7-year-old and 9-year-old, and they just want to play video games, iPad. I can buy the greatest toy in the world, and they'll want iPad. Dude, they went back to school after, the whole COVID thing settled. Every day. And I was worried about them. I go, man, babe, they're really addicted to these devices, He has no interest. He wants to play outside with his friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
Like after school, they're out there all day. I can't get them in to eat dinner. So don't tell me it's a generational thing, right? Even the younger generation, you can't take away the human element because we're designed for relationships. Yep. They say a baby dies without that love and interaction from someone. They have to feel love and interaction. That's why you hold a baby, right? And machines, computer languages, no matter how great your virtual world is, it's still virtual. It's not real. So just remember that. If there was one takeaway from tonight, like everything we talk about, no matter if it's building a business, building a marriage, having a better relationship with your children, it's all about that human element, We want that authentic relationship. I want to get to know Jeremy. I want to get to know Brian, who they are for real, right? And having this conversation. Now I see Brian in a new light, right? Because I always saw him just on a podcast or, through, messages in my inbox. But now I know what he is about, Oh, there's more depth to Brian than just a show, right? He actually really cares about the human relationship and bringing value to people. And that's how you set yourself apart in business, And I can attest to that throughout the years. And there's relationships I felt that the guy's broke. He had no money or, people who I met throughout the year had zero interest in any product that I was selling. But because they knew someone 5 years later, 10 years later, and it became a game changer for me. I had a client in Manhattan, New York, and it was some youth pastor called my agency up. Okay, this was a church, and I was like, well, we don't really do like church stuff, we're a marketing agency. And he goes, no, I just need help. It's the last minute. I don't know this guy, right? They call our agency, and he needed help to put this church video thing out. And I go, we don't do church video. Like, I'm not a non-for-profit church. We're a marketing agency. He goes, no, please help me out, Kevin. And he goes, I go, all right, I'll send someone out and we'll figure it out. We'll work it out, right? The guy, it's a church, so they didn't have money to really spend. And, but I felt he really needed to meet his deadline. He had this project. He needed this thing out. So we helped him out. Just happens he had relationships because of his past life. He would build these web applications, right, for different clients. And in his corporate life before he was a youth pastor. So it happens he had this New York, Manhattan client that reached out to him, and he goes, hey, I'm not in the business anymore. I don't work for the corporation. But it happens, I know an agency And these folks have been my clients for the last 7 years.
Oh,
Yeah.
And it's
Great
one of
stuff.
my larger accounts. And if I would not help this guy, he wouldn't have remembered me. So like I can tell you story after story after story, and this is how the world works, right?
It's a beautiful world if it's worked the way it was designed to be worked, right?
Yep.
And it's like keep planting the seeds and keep stacking the pebbles and don't ever stop and don't look back and think, man, I planted that seed 5 years ago. Nothing's come from it. Just keep going, keep helping the next person. And if that person circles back, they need more help them again. And don't look, my advice is always to say, help people without expecting anything in return. And I started doing this by accident. I loved seminars. I went to so many. I've got, how you wear those badges? Those lanyards with the
The
badges.
lanyards,
Yep.
yeah.
I began collecting them, and I don't know. Kevin might be old enough. I don't know. Do you remember this guy named Mr. T that was on TV?
Yes.
Yep. I
Mr.
do.
T, A-Team.
Yes.
Yep,
So you remember all the
18.
gold chains?
Yeah.
So I did this on stage when I was speaking, and I'd have an assistant bring up all my lanyards. I had them tie wrapped down because they were so dang thick, and I'd put them on, and the whole point was to just show up, keep going. And then I put up a picture of Mr. T, and I'd say, see, I'd even put Mr. T to shame because they were bigger and thicker than his chains. So it's about just showing up, and it's about doing it authentically, and doing it over and over and over again. And don't stop. Meet more people. But the intent, I would go to seminar after seminar as a non-speaker before I became one. And even to this day, I would do the same thing. I would be one of those last people remaining as they're breaking everything down and leaving. Because I'm like, I don't have to race to the airport. I went to the local events here in LA. And I'm like, I just want to talk to more people and meet more people. It's just the way I was wired. And I'd see, some of the people putting the chairs up, stacking them, and say, hey, do you need a hand? And they're like looking at me shocked and like, okay, because I paid to be at the event. You're going to help us? You pay. And I said, yeah. I mean, what else am I going to do? Let me help. And did that several times. And I found a side benefit doing that. And that was oftentimes the main speaker would come out from behind the curtain after they're all done dousing themselves with their towel and drinking water and recovering. And I'd get some time with them. I thought, hey, that was pretty cool. But that was not my intent. And my intent was not to get anything in return. But let me tell you, I got a lot in return from that. I got great advice one-on-one that normally I would have to pay hundreds of dollars an hour for. I would get an additional wink the next time I'd see them, and they would recognize me, call my name out from stage. This stuff happened. And I'm like, wow, that was pretty neat. And, that's when I was all starry-eyed, like, oh, look at that big person on stage. And it is. It's awesome. So do it without, my opinion is help people without expecting anything in return. And that's when the return will come back manyfold. But then as you start realizing that's what happens, keep it in mind. Do not do it with the intention or expectation of getting anything in return, even though it's happening, because that you can slip into that slippery slope as well.
Yep, and I think that's the best way to. This is why I tell my boys too, right? It's not giving if you're giving with expectations, right? Then don't say you're giving value or giving anything away, right? It's a strategy. Then I would call that more manipulation, right? But if you're truly giving and
You won't mention it. Yeah.
with no intent, sometimes the best things in life happens, right? Because that's what happened to me. I had no intent when I met my wife. I just had bankruptcy, lost my business, broke, and that's when I met my wife. And, and we've been married, 12 years, and that's how it usually happened. It wasn't when I had a successful business, So remember, the best things in life sometimes comes from when it's not always intentional. So before we end tonight, Brian, how can people follow you and what's the best way to connect?
I love to give. So go to themindbodybusinessshow.com and you can opt in there. We don't sell anything, as I've been saying all this time. It just gives you a notification, a reminder of when our next show is. We're every week at 5:30 p.m. Pacific here in the United States. And I bring on incredible people like yourselves, and no kidding, entrepreneurs. I got to say this. I had the one and only, the great Les Brown on my show some time ago. He's the most renowned international speaker on the planet. He's 76, I think now. and still going strong. He was just literally doing a Facebook Live earlier today.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
Just saying. So, just keep crushing it, everybody. But you can find me on Facebook. I have a similar look, a similar jacket. It might be the same one. I don't know. I don't remember. I got like 3 jackets. I don't need them anymore. Like I was saying earlier, you put on something on top and you sit down in front of a camera. You just don't get up during the talk. So,
yep.
That's another tip for those of you that
it's boxers down here and jacket on top, right?
Don't ever stand up. Don't ever stand up.
Just hope the camera doesn't
fall over.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot not find me. So if you want to get in touch with me, you can find it on LinkedIn and Facebook. And I don't really look at Twitter much, but I do have an account there. But LinkedIn and Facebook would be my 2. Just look for Brian Kelly. It's Brian Carl Kelly is in the username because there's a lot of Brian Kellys out there. It's kind of like a John Smith. It's like, who named all these other people? Dang it. But yeah, I love people. I have a masterclass, a free masterclass coming up. If anyone wants to check into that, it's about live video, what we're doing right now, and all the processes that lead up to the show, which is most of the work. Hint, hint, wink, wink. In doing a show. Then there's the during show, which is the fun part. You get to turn it on and have fun with your guests. Then there's post show that many people don't do either the front or the back. They just turn on their phone in the wind with a horrible shaky hand, and no one wants to watch that. And so, yeah, I teach A to Z, and it's all about quality, automation, and exposure, massive exposure. And we'll go through those. It's a 1-hour free class. And you have the opportunity to talk to me in person for an hour. And I just open it up to everybody. And again, nothing, zero, zilch is for sale. And oftentimes I tell them, come on and let's talk about live video. Whatever your questions are, write them down and be ready. They come on and they just want to talk about life and business. I become a business coach. I'm like, it's your time. I will do whatever you want, but I'll try to get them back to the live video. You have any questions, live video? No, all right. That's okay. Yeah, it's called masterclass.reachyourpeakllc.com is where you can go to that. It's free. And hope a lot of people come on and do it every 3 weeks or so. This will be my 15th, I believe. Yeah. 15. Have fun. And then if you need to contact me, just look up Kevin or Jeremy. They'll show you how to get me.
Hit us up.
That's right.
So, well, I appreciate you for being on our show tonight. So
thank you for having me. And I mean, once a month, man, I'm in some pretty big company here. This is awesome.
I don't know about that. But, hey, we appreciate you and thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you. Thanks, Ray.
All
Thank
right.
you.